I got into a fight with parents who never changed their toddlers' diapers. I never thought I would ever meet parents so diabolical that their attitude actually made my skin crawl. I work at a nursery, caring for children below 5 years of age. I had always loved how cute and innocent children were and really enjoyed my job. But unfortunately, some of the parents I meet aren't as great as their kids. Some parents had pestered me for hourly updates, which I had to explain were impossible given that I constantly watched between 5 to 10 children at a time. However, I met the worst pair of parents in the history of me working there. Every time they would come into the nursery, their 2-year-old, Charlie, was always kicking and screaming at the top of his lungs. His mom would often hand him over to me, looking disgusted by her own kid, while constantly talking on the phone through her AirPods. When I checked to see what had been causing Charlie to act up, I saw that his diaper had been filled to the brim and slightly spilling out onto the back of his legs, making him incredibly uncomfortable. It was hard not to gag at the horrid smell of rotting eggs. I frowned and cleaned Charlie up, gently singing a song to keep him distracted. Once the diaper was replaced, he began laughing and talking gibberish. I dropped him off at the napping area with the other babies and focused on cleaning up the changing room. When I threw out his diaper, I noticed distinct black lettering marked on the edges of the diaper, which spelled the name of the nursery. My eyes widened in shock at the realization that Charlie's parents had not changed his diaper for over 18 hours since we last saw him. I took a picture of the diaper before throwing it out and brought up the issue to the manager of the nursery, Mrs. Nielsen. Instead of feeling concerned, she went ahead and deleted the picture and told me not to trouble our customers with my silly little concerns. When I tried to push it further, she told me that it wasn't a sign of neglect. It only meant that Charlie's parents were busy working hard to give him a good life. She told me that if I brought up the issue again, she would have to fire me for causing the nursery to potentially lose valued customers. I nodded, feeling defeated, and went back to caring for all the kids. I held Charlie in my arms and started getting teary-eyed, imagining how long he had been crying and unable to sleep, all because of a full diaper. My heart broke for him, and I knew that if I didn't do anything, he would continue to suffer. And from then, for 2 weeks, I documented every time Charlie would show up screaming and crying because of the diaper problem. I also made sure to start writing the date on his diaper. By the end of the 2 weeks, Charlie had shown up 9 times with the same diaper as the day before. I felt so emotional and full of rage against the parents. So, over the weekend, I spoke with Child Protective Services to report the situation. I explained how, the one time I tried to report the neglect to my manager, she shut me down and threatened to fire me. But after 2 weeks of dealing with the situation, I no longer cared about getting fired as long as Charlie was okay. They agreed on investigating the case. On Monday, CPS showed up at the nursery before my shift started, and I let them in to examine the area. I showed them the pictures I had taken of the diapers. As if right on time, my manager, Mrs. Nielsen, showed up and stared at the CPS like a deer in the headlights. She opened up the shop and acted on her best behavior while parents started dropping off their kids. Soon enough, Charlie's parents arrived, holding him while he kicked and screamed. This time, he looked dirtier than usual, with his knees and hands blackened, as if he had been crawling in dusty places around his house. The CPS walked over and inspected Charlie while questioning the parents. The dad got angry, yelling, "Do you think we're bad parents? Who even reported this?" The mom looked at me like she wanted to strangle me and yelled, "We hired you to care for our kid, but you had the audacity to report us for something so ridiculous. We're going to sue all of you." Mrs. Nielsen stepped in and apologized profusely to the parents. She turned to the CPS and lied, saying that I was known to tell stories and make things up, and how she had been waiting for a chance to fire me for it. The CPS called in the standby police officers to bring the parents in for questioning, as well as arresting my manager for knowingly trying to cover up a serious case of child neglect. The 3 of them squirmed around and begged the officers while I stood there hugging Charlie. The CPS took Charlie away for further examination as well.